My fiancée's daughter's birthday invitation had a note. Gifts, $2,000 minimum. She deserves the best. When I arrived with a thoughtful $80 gift from my kids, her mom announced to everyone, "Some people just don't know how to love a child." Everyone froze. I smiled, pulled out my phone, and withdrew the $220,000 mortgage cosign I'd promised them last month. When the bank called them, 20 minutes later, the birthday invitation came in a thick cream envelope, sealed with actual burgundy wax, like a summons from the green. Betrayal was turning 8 years old. 8. And there it was, embossed in gold foil at the bottom of the card. Gifts, $2,000 minimum. She deserves the best. I read it twice, looked up, read it again. My son Marcus was standing next to me. He leaned over, read the same line, and looked at me with those big brown eyes and said, "Dad, does she think we're millionaires?" I didn't answer him, but something settled in my chest right then. Cold, quiet, like the last piece of a puzzle dropping into place when you'd been hoping it would land somewhere else. I had been watching for this moment for 4 months. I hadn't told anyone that. Not Marcus, not my daughter Zoe, not even my best friend Derek, who had tried to warn me 6 weeks earlier, and I'd told him he was being paranoid. He was not being paranoid. And what happened next? The party, the announcement, the pool, the eyebrows. I still cannot entirely believe it. Any of it. But let me back up, because you need the full picture. My name is Clint. I'm 36 years old. I live in Charlotte, North Carolina. Good light in October. Terrible traffic in December. That's red all I ask of a city at this point in my life. I'm a documentary filmmaker. 11 years in. 4 feature docs. 2 on streaming platforms. 1 at Sundance that I mention at dinner parties more than I should. I have a production company with 14 employees, including my editor, Terrence, who I would genuinely not survive without. I gross between $380,000 and $450,000 a year, depending on the project load. I own my house outright, 20% into retirement every month, no exceptions. I'm the kind of person who makes lists, puts his shoes in the same spot every night, reads the instructions. I know that's not interesting, but it matters for what I did at that birthday party. The person who made that choice is not impulsive, not dramatic, not someone who wakes up and decides today is the day to set something on fire. When I do something, I've thought about it. I've been divorced 4 years. My ex-wife Donna is a good person and a good mother, and we didn't work out for reasons that are private and not relevant here. We share Marcus, 10 years old, anxious, brilliant, currently building an architectural model of the Charlotte Skyline from Lego that takes up an entire table. And Zoe, who is 7, has her mother's eyes and my stubbornness, and has a laugh that makes strangers in restaurants turn around and smile. Those 2 kids are everything. Every decision points back to them. I started dating Vanessa 18 months ago. I want to be fair to her at the start. She is beautiful. Funny when she's relaxed. She works in high-end event planning, corporate galas, product launches, charity fundraisers. She's meticulous and driven. She has a daughter named Betrayal, who was 7 when we met and turned 8 at the center of the story. I liked Betrayal. Quiet kid, watchful, dark curly hair, and enormous eyes that track everything in a room without blinking. I was wrong about several things. I'll tell you which ones as we go. A few people matter enough to introduce. Marcus, 10, my firstborn, makes spreadsheets on his iPad to organize his Lego sets. Was the first one to be quietly suspicious of Vanessa. Not openly. Marcus doesn't do things openly. He just got quieter around her. One evening, about 8 months in, he asked me, very casually, "Dad, does Vanessa know what your job actually is?" I said, "Yes, of course." He said, "Okay," and went back to his food. I thought nothing of it at the time. I think about it constantly now. Zoe, 7, luminous, currently in a phase where she makes handmade gifts for everyone she loves and presents them with the gravity of a UN ambassador delivering a treaty. She made Vanessa a friendship bracelet 2 months into our relationship. Woven thread, a little uneven, presented in a small box she decorated with markers and glitter glue. Vanessa looked at it and said, "Oh, isn't that sweet?" in exactly the tone you use when a neighbor's kid shows you a macaroni craft. She set it on the counter. Never wore it. Not once. Zoe noticed. She's 7, not blind. She never made Vanessa anything again. I noticed too. Vanessa's mother, Linda, 61, recently retired, living in Fort Mill in a condo she describes as just temporary while she figures out her next chapter. She has been figuring out her next chapter for 3 years. Linda is thin, immaculate, and gives compliments that take 4 seconds to turn into something else. She once told me my documentary style was very accessible, with a small deliberate pause. Before accessible, that meant something I chose not to examine. She loves Vanessa fiercely, completely, and in a way that has never required Vanessa to be accountable for anything. Derek, 38, my best friend, my sound designer on 4 projects. 6'3", reads rooms the way I read scripts. He warned me about Vanessa in November over beers. He said, "She looks at your kids the way someone looks at a traffic jam, like an inconvenience she didn't plan for." I told him he was being dramatic. He said, "I hope I'm wrong." Then he drank his beer. He was not wrong. And my sister Renata, 33, a high school counselor in Greensboro, married to the most purely decent man I know, mother of 2 boys. Renata says the quiet part out loud, not cruelly, with the calm clarity of a doctor naming a diagnosis. Here is what this is, here's what the options are. She plays a significant role in what happened, the backstory, which is where I have to be honest about how long I let things slide. And why? The first 3 months were genuinely good. Vanessa was warm and curious about my work. She came to a rough cut screening and asked smart questions after. The kids were cautious with her the way kids are, but there were moments that felt like the start of something real. Then slowly, and slowly is designed to be invisible, things shifted. It started small. She'd mentioned she was short on a catering deposit. Could she borrow $800 until Friday? Friday came, client paid late. Could she push to next week? 3 weeks later, I mentioned it gently, and she gave me a look like I'd said something embarrassing and said, "Clint, I thought we were past keeping score between us." I dropped it. I shouldn't have dropped it. By September, I'd flaunted $3,400 in informal loans. By November, $6,100. She'd stopped mentioning paying it back. When I brought it up again, she said she was under enormous stress with a major event. And could we not do this right now? I said, of course. I added the total to a note on my phone that I opened sometimes and then closed, telling myself, uneven cash flow, single mom, I am a generous person. Generosity is a choice. Nobody told me that if you give without limits, some people start treating your limits like a suggestion they've heard before and chosen to ignore. Then, in January, things got specific. Vanessa found a house she wanted. A 4-bedroom colonial in Dilworth, listed at $895,000. Solid credit history, but not enough liquid assets for the down payment structure she needed. She wanted it for Brielle's future, for the school district. These were real reasons. I believed her about the reasons. She asked if I'd co-sign her mortgage. The total I'd be backstopping, $220,000. $220,000. I said I'd think about it. I thought about it for 6 days, talked to my accountant, ran the numbers, confirmed I could absorb the risk if things went sideways. And then I thought about my kids. It hit me, sitting at my desk at midnight, with the mortgage documents open on my screen, that I had never, not once, in 18 months, seen Vanessa do anything for Marcus and Zoe that caused her anything real. Not time, not money, not a sacrifice of convenience, not a single moment where she chose them first. The bracelet sat on the counter. She'd attended 4 of Marcus's school events and looked at her phone through 3 of them. She had referred to my custody schedule as the Qley situation in a text she'd accidentally sent to me instead of Linda. I thought about the bracelet. I told Vanessa I'd co-sign. I told the bank. The paperwork was submitted and pending final processing the following month. And then the birthday invitation arrived. The party was at a private event space in Ballantine that Vanessa had rented for a children's birthday. Rental alone, $3,200. Catering extra, decorations extra. She'd hired a photographer, a face painting artist, and I'm not making any of this up, a party experience coordinator. whose role was to ensure the children were having curated experiences rather than simply a party. The invitations came in thick cream envelopes with burgundy wax seals stamped with Betrayal's initial, designed by a graphic designer. 30 of them. And at the bottom, in embossed gold foil, gifts, $2,000 min, she deserves the best. I read that line and sat with it for a long time. Betrayal was turning 8. She likes drawing horses and has seen Moana 11 times. She is not the child with a gift tier. No 8-year-old is. The concept of a minimum gift requirement on a children's birthday invitation should not exist in a correctly oriented world. And yet here it was, in gold foil, like a dress code. I showed it to Derek. He read it. Read it again. Handed it back and said quietly, "Are you going to the party?" "Yes." "With what gift?" "An $80 art set. From Marcus and Zoe." Derek looked at me for 4 full seconds. Then, "You're testing her." I didn't say anything. "You've been testing her for months," he said. Not a question, but he was right. I had been watching. I had been cataloging. And I had reached the point where I needed to know, without ambiguity, whether the person I was about to anchor $220,000 of my financial life to was someone who valued my children, or someone who had been tolerating their existence as the price of access to everything else. The party was going to answer that question. I bought the art set from a local specialty toy store. Professional quality sketching kit, charcoal pencils, colored pencils, fine line markers, a sketchbook with thick, cold-pressed paper, handmade wooden case with a brass clasp. Retail, $78. Marcus and Zoe wrapped it at the kitchen table on Saturday morning, which took 45 minutes, because they kept disagreeing about the ribbon. Zoe drew a small horse on the gift tag, because she knew Betrayal liked horses. Marcus wrote, "Happy birthday," in his most careful handwriting and underlined it. They were proud of it. That is the most important thing in this entire story. We arrived at the venue at 1:15 p.m. The space was exactly what you'd expect for a $3,200 rental. High ceilings, natural light, eucalyptus draped over everything, pink and gold balloon installations. 25 children running between tables, with the energy of small people who have been given sugar and a mandate to celebrate. Vanessa was at the center of it in a dress I had never seen. Valentino, deep blush pink, wrap-style fabric that catches light and moves like water. I know it was Valentino because I had in the week preceding the party done some research. The dress retails for $4,200. She was wearing Louboutin sandals, the bow-style rose gold hardware, $1,380. Hair done to look effortless, which it absolutely was not. And the makeup. The makeup is load-bearing in this story. Vanessa had hired Cecile, professional makeup artist, 47,000 Instagram followers, $600 per session, specializes in what her website calls elevated event glamour. Cecile had been at the house at 7:30 a.m., 7:30 for a noon birthday party. 2 hours of work. Full coverage foundation with color correction underneath. Sculpted cheekbones, highlight placed with surgical precision. Individual false lashes. Glossy, neutral lip. And eyebrows. Hold the eyebrows in your mind. I'll come back to them. Betrayal ran toward us when we came in, hugged Marcus with her usual shy uncertainty. Not unfriendly, just careful. Zoe pushed the gift into her hands immediately. "We picked it because we knew you liked drawing," Zoe said. Marcus helped wrap it. It took us a really long time. Betrayal looked at the gift, then at Zoe, then back at the gift, and said quietly, "Thank you. Real. Genuine. Cost nothing and meant everything." Then Vanessa appeared at Betrayal's shoulder. She looked at the wrapped gift, the paper, the ribbon, the little horse on the tag. Her smile did something complex. It didn't drop. Something went out behind it, like a light dimming in another room. "Oh, how sweet," she said, in the exact tone she'd used for the bracelet. She walked the gift to the back of the gift table, behind a large silver-wrapped box, with a bow the size of a decorative pumpkin, which I later learned was from Linda, a child-sized diamond tennis bracelet, and a $500 Nordstrom gift card. For an 8-year-old. The gift opening came 40 minutes later. Betrayal went front to back through the pile. Ours was last. She'd opened 3 gifts in silver and 2 in gold before she reached the wooden case with the horse tag. She undid the ribbon carefully, not tearing it, opened the lid, and gasped. A small, genuine, 8-year-old gasp. She lifted the charcoal pencil set and said with complete conviction, "Mom, these are the good ones, like what real artists use." Half a second of silence. And Vanessa, in front of 32 adults and 24 children, with complete calm, said, "Some people just don't know how to love a child." Loud enough for the room. Aimed. The room went quiet, in the way it only goes quiet when something has been said that cannot be unsaid, and everyone present knows it. You could hear the fountain, that little decorative trickling from the ornamental garden feature near the gift table. Marcus went still beside me. He is 10 years old, and he understood exactly what had just happened. Children always understand. They don't have the vocabulary yet, so they carry the understanding in their bodies instead. Zoe looked up at me, birthday cake on a small plate in her hand. She stopped eating. I smiled. A real smile, not cruel, not satisfied, just clear. The kind you feel when you've been asking yourself a question for a very long time, and the universe has just handed you the answer in front of witnesses. I reached into my jacket pocket, took out my phone, opened the banking app, found the pending mortgage co-signature application, 2 tax. Done. I put my phone back in my pocket. "Hey," I said to my kids, quietly, "you want more cake? Go get more cake." Day went. And somewhere across Charlotte, a banker named Carl in residential lending, who knew none of us, generated an automated notification delivered to Vanessa's email and phone 17 minutes later. I know it was 17 minutes, because she was mid-sentence talking to another parent when it arrived. She picked up her phone, read the notification. Her face, beneath all of Cecile's meticulous work, went the color of old paper. She looked across the room at me. I looked back, and I had absolutely no role in what happened next. I need to be clear about this. It was entirely physics and a Louboutin sandal. Vanessa took 1 step backward. Her right heel caught the stone lip of the ornamental pool. It was 18 inches deep, smooth decorative stones on the bottom, lily pads on the surface, a small fountain that made a sound like a polite apology, the kind of feature that photographs beautifully and is, in retrospect, a liability waiting for its moment. This was its moment. Vanessa went in with the energy of someone who has briefly forgotten that gravity applies to them without exception. Arms first. The blush pink Ralentino hitting the water and going dark immediately, heavy and clinging within half a second. She went into the hip. Phone flying. A lily pad wrapped itself around her left forearm like a corsage, and the face came with it. The water took Cecile's work apart completely. Not gradually, all of it. The foundation, the color correction, the highlights, the sculpted cheekbones, gone. Washed away in 4 seconds, leaving behind Vanessa's actual face, which is, let me be clear, a genuinely attractive face. She is a beautiful woman without makeup. Nothing wrong with her face, except the eyebrows. I need you to understand what I mean when I say the eyebrows were gone. I do not mean that Cecile had enhanced natural brows. I mean that Vanessa does not appear to have eyebrows that are visible to the unaided human eye from conversational distance. What Cecile had created that morning, those 2 precisely sculpted, architecturally compelling strokes, were painted on, not penciled, painted, with a product that had clearly not been engineered for immersion in decorative pool water. Both of them were gone. What remained above Vanessa's eyes was just smooth skin, slightly startled looking, without any framing whatsoever. She looked like someone had hit pause on her face. There was a beat of absolute, universal silence. 25 children stopped moving. Every adult froze mid-gesture. The face painting artist in the corner put her brush down very slowly. And Betrayal, 8 years old today, holding a charcoal pencil in each hand, walked to the edge of the pool, looked at her mother standing in it, and said with complete and total sincerity, "Mommy, where did your eyebrows go?" The silence lasted 2 more seconds, and then someone laughed. I don't know who started it. Doesn't matter. Once one person laughed, it was finished. The whole room came undone. Parents, children, catering staff. The face painting artist slid off her stool by approximately 6 inches. 3 people had their hands over their mouths, doing nothing whatsoever to suppress what was happening underneath them. Okay, so here's the part where I need you to understand something about me. I am not a petty person. I am a documentarian. My entire professional life is built on observing what's actually happening and rendering it honestly. 11 years. I am a calm, methodical, organized human being. What I did next was calm and methodical and organized. I took out my phone. I am a filmmaker. The pool was not my doing. That was God's contribution, or physics, or the Louboutin sandals, which I maintain should not be considered appropriate footwear within 12 feet of any body of water, decorative or otherwise. I take full credit for the 2 taps. The pool is on the universe. But when Vanessa came up out of that water, and I saw what had been revealed, the face, the smooth expanse above her eyes where Cecile's architectural work used to be, I understood with complete professional clarity that this was a moment that needed to be documented. I hit record. I know. But hear me out. The footage is steady. 11 years of experience holding a camera. The audio is clear. You can see everything. Every face in the room. The lily pad on her arm. Brielle still holding the charcoal pencils. My kids at the cake table with Marcus's mouth open and Zoe's fork suspended midway between plate and face. I genuinely did not plan for all of it to be in one shot. Vanessa stood at the pool's edge, soaking, the Valentino clinging to her, one heel at an angle that indicated it had separated from its soul, and she looked at her reflection in the side of a catering tray held by a staff member who had the profound misfortune of being nearest to her at that exact moment. And Vanessa made a sound. I don't know how to categorize this sound except to say it was the sound of someone who has invested $600 in a face and is watching the return on that investment dissolve in real time in front of 40 witnesses. My EY brows, she said, not asked, declared. Central injustice of the universe, stated as fact. They're gone, confirmed the catering staff member, who immediately looked as though she would prefer to be somewhere else. Cecile, put them on at 7:30 this morning. Okay, said the catering staff member, making valiant choices under pressure. My dress. True. The Valentino was a different object now. My lashes. One lash was visible on the lily pad. A 5-year-old pointed at it. 2 other children immediately went to investigate. I look like... She caught her reflection in the tray again. And whatever she was about to say became something unprintable. She felt she resembled something. An animal was implied. She was not specific, but she was emphatic. She found me in the crowd. You, she said, quiet, the opposite of calm. Vanessa, I was 12 feet away. There are 30 people who will confirm this. You withdrew the mortgage. I did. Why? I let a moment pass. I looked at her in the pool with the lily pad on her arm and the smooth expanse above her eyes where 2 structurally significant brows used to be. Then I said, very quietly, some people just don't know how to love a child. 4 words. I gave them back. There was a long pause. Several people took photos during this pause. Multiple people. Independently. Without coordinating. Then Vanessa responded at a volume and frequency that I can only describe by telling you that 3 of the children in the room began crying, and the face-painting artist in the corner stood up, picked up her kit with the deliberate calm of someone who has made a professional decision, and walked toward the exit. She was making the right call. The fallout started 11 minutes after the pool. The venue staff member who had confirmed the eyebrow situation texted her girlfriend within 4 minutes. Her girlfriend knew mutual friends at the party. By 3:45 p.m., there were active text threads involving people who had no connection to any of us. The video, my video, the documentary quality footage captured by a professional at a professionally unfortunate moment. I sent to one person, Derek, because Derek had told me in November that Vanessa looked at my kids like a traffic jam, and he deserved to see the conclusion. Derek, who loves me and has impeccable professional judgment and should not be trusted with sensitive video files when he has been drinking, sent it to 2 people he described as discreet. They were not discreet. Within 5 hours, the video was in group chats I've never been part of. In cities including Raleigh, Nashville, and, I cannot explain this and have stopped trying. Boise, Idaho. I don't know anyone in Boise. No one in this story knows anyone in Boise. The family group chat erupted at 5:42 p.m. with Vanessa's cousin Tyler. I heard Clint pulled the mortgage at the party. Is this true? That her aunt Deborah, Vanessa honey, what happened? I'm getting 3 different versions. Then Linda, 6:03 p.m., all caps. Clint, you owe this family an explanation and an apology. And the mortgage cosign reinstated by tomorrow morning. I did not respond to the group chat. Linda called me twice. I didn't pick up. She then obtained Derek's number somehow and called him to tell him I was being financially manipulative and that she expected him, as the close friend, to talk some sense into me. Derek listened to the full speech. Then he said, Linda, have you seen the video? Linda said she didn't know what video he was talking about. Derek sent her the video. Linda did not call anyone after that, not that evening. Not the following morning. Renata later suggested this was the most emotionally intelligent thing Linda had ever done. The party photographer hired by Vanessa, doing their job, had captured the pool incident in sequence. The shot that circulated most widely caught the precise moment of facial revelation. Vanessa, emerging from the water, the lily pad on the arm, the smooth expanse above the eyes, and in the background, clearly in focus, Brielle still holding the charcoal pencils with an expression of pure, uncomplicated 8-year-old confusion. That photograph ended up on a photography community forum under Event Photography Capturing the Unexpected. 47 upvotes. A comment from a photographer in Portland. The child's expression in the background is the whole story. I sent the link to Perrick. He replied, you should make a documentary. The venue's Instagram posted a beautiful shot of the balloon installations at 8 p.m. The comments section contained 31 responses, the majority being some variation of a specific question about the ornamental pool feature. The venue replied to each one, we are so glad our guests enjoyed our garden elements. Someone named Caitlin, the venue's junior events coordinator, I later learned, sent a message to someone outside the organization confirming that the lily pad was still floating, that they had considered removing it, and that after internal discussion, they had decided to leave it in place because it felt, in her words, historically significant at this point. I genuinely did not plan for Caitlin. At 9:15 p.m., my phone rang. Renata. She had been sending progressively shorter texts all evening. I heard, are you okay? Then, the video. Then, the lily pad. Then just Clint. When I picked up, she was laughing in the way she laughs when something is genuinely too large for normal laughter. That near silent, shoulder-shaking thing that occasionally sounds like a medical event. I need you, she said once she'd collected herself, to explain to me how there is a pool at a children's birthday party. It was ornamental, they said. It was ornamental, with lily pads, and a fountain. The kind that makes a gentle trickling sound. Another pause, then her voice changed. Still warm, but settled now. The counselor, Clint, are you okay? The real answer. I sat with that for a moment. Actually sat with it. Yeah, I said. Actually, I am. The kids, they're okay. Marcus is relieved in the way 10-year-olds are relieved when something they knew was wrong gets confirmed and they don't have to pretend they didn't know anymore. So he asked me tonight whether Vanessa was going to be sad about her eyebrows forever. What did you say? I said I didn't know, but probably yes for a while. Correct answer. Renata called Vanessa 2 days after the party, not to fight, not on my behalf. She called because she understands that people in crisis sometimes need someone to reflect back exactly what happened, in plain language, without defensive noise. She told me about it later. She said she told Vanessa, you embarrassed 2 children who brought a gift made with love. Out loud, in front of an audience, deliberately. And then you were surprised when their father, a man who loves those children more than anything, reacted. The mortgage cosign was always his choice to give or not give. Whether you deserve it is a different question from whether he should give it. I think you know the answer to both. Vanessa cried, Renata said. The real kind, not the performative kind. Then she said something I have turned over in my mind 100 times since. She said, "I knew he was testing me. I could feel it for weeks. I knew it every time he watched how I treated his kids. And I failed it on purpose because I was terrified of what passing it would require me to become." I sat with that for a long time. There's something in there I hadn't expected. Not just the honesty. That surprised me, but didn't unsettle me. It was the logic underneath. She had felt the test, and chosen to fail it, rather than face what passing would cost her. Whether that was fear of intimacy, or fear of genuine responsibility, or fear of becoming someone she didn't know how to be. I don't have the training to diagnose that, and I'm not going to try. What I know is that knowing something is happening and walking into it anyway is different from not knowing. And I'm not sure which one is easier to forgive. 2 weeks after the party, there was a knock at my front door. Marcus and Zoe were with me for the weekend. Vanessa was in a short-term rental in South End, while she figured out housing. The Dilworth house had fallen through without the cosign, which she'd known would happen, and had apparently made a separate peace with. Brielle had asked Vanessa if she could come see the kids. Vanessa called me. I said yes. And here was Brielle at the door with the wooden art case under her arm. Those big dark eyes tracking everything the way they always tracked things. Marcus opened the door, read the situation in about 3 seconds, stepped back, and said simply, "Hey, come in." Brielle sat at the kitchen table and opened the case and showed Zoe what she'd drawn. A horse. A genuinely good horse. She had a natural instinct for proportion that's hard to teach. A feeling for where an animal's weight actually sits. Zoe looked at it for 1 second and said, "I have to show you mine. Mine is bad, but I tried really hard." And they disappeared into Zoe's room together. Marcus watched them go from the doorway. Then he said, without turning around, "She's okay, Dad. She's actually okay." "Yeah," I said. "She is. It wasn't her fault." "No, it wasn't." He nodded once, went back to his room, his tablet, his model of the Charlotte skyline. Marcus doesn't need a lot of resolution. He just needs the facts to line up. Here is where things actually stand. The mortgage cosign is withdrawn, and stays withdrawn. Vanessa is in the South End apartment, which she can genuinely afford on her own income. She and I have had 2 real conversations since the party. No performances, no drama. And she apologized to Marcus and Zoe. Not a big moment. She called and asked if she could speak to them. Said she was sorry for what she'd said about their gift, and she meant it. Zoe said okay and asked if Vanessa wanted to hear about the horse she'd been drawing. Vanessa said yes. Zoe told her, in extensive detail. Vanessa asked real questions. Marcus, when Vanessa texted him that his Lego time-lapse was genuinely impressive, put his phone in his pocket instead of leaving it on the counter. Small things. Very small things. The eyebrow situation has been addressed professionally. Cecile has proposed a semi-permanent solution. This is, I think, the most practical outcome of the entire event. Linda remains in strategic silence. The most emotionally intelligent thing she has ever done. The photograph from the party, Brielle in the background holding the charcoal pencils, was submitted to a documentary photography publication by the photographer, who I cannot blame for doing exactly what I would have done. It is currently under consideration. The composition is strong. Are things fixed? No. Vanessa and I exist in a space that doesn't have a clean name, not together, not entirely separate. Somewhere in the territory of 2 people who have seen each other clearly and are deciding what to do with what they've seen. That's not a fairy tale. I'm 36 years old. I don't want fairy tales. What I want is someone who looks at my kids and sees actual people. Someone who, when a 7-year-old gives her a bracelet made from embroidery thread, puts it on. Someone who understands that an $80 art kit, given with care, and a hand-drawn horse on the tag is worth more than every minimum gift requirement printed in gold foil. Whether Vanessa can become that person consistently, not just when she's been humbled by an ornamental pool and a viral photograph, I genuinely don't know. What I know with complete certainty, Marcus and Zoe will not be second. Not to any gift tier, not to any Valentino dress or architectural eyebrows, or anyone's need to perform love as though it were the same thing as wealth. In front of an audience for validation. They come first. They have always come first. And anyone who is going to be in my life needs to understand that. Not as a condition to accept, not as fine print, but down to the bone, without me having to explain it, without a test, without gold foil lettering on a cream envelope to shake it loose. That's just how I'm made. If any part of this felt familiar, if you've ever been the one giving quietly, watching someone tolerate your children, instead of seeing them, telling yourself it's temporary, waiting for one moment that would finally tell you the truth. I hope this was useful. I don't have clean answers. I have a withdrawn mortgage, a lily pad that has been named by venue staff, 2 kids drawing horses in the next room, and footage I may or may not turn into something. But I have those 2 kids. And that's the whole thing. Drop it in the comments if any of this landed for you. I read every single one, and I mean that. I'm a documentarian. I believe human stories matter, and yours is as worth telling as mine. If this hit something, a like means more than you'd think. Thank you for watching. Thank you for staying all the way to the lily pad. I'll see you next time.